right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Friday. Yes, it's Friday, September 23rd, 2016. And this is Before the First Cup of Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Friday, everyone. It is a very overcast and about ready to rain any second here at 53 degrees in upstate New York. Looks like fall is about ready to descend on us finally here in the last week of September. So where do we leave off? Yesterday, we titled the show Terahertz Sees Through Walls, Frisks You at a Distance, and Unzips DNA. And we've been looking at terahertz radiation, millimeter wave beams, plasma, energy weapons under development by the DoD, and ubiquitous internet in the sky by large organizations such as Google and Facebook. And what all of these things mean, what these little CubeSats that are going to be communicating to connect the Internet of Everything is going to mean to not only your privacy, but to potentially to your health, to some of the damage that these millimeter waves might do, and some of the capabilities that this is going to give those lunatics running the show that they haven't had before, like being able to see through walls, see through clothing, see through fog, being able to do beaming in and out of HD video. For such things, of course, is little Johnny getting this 24/7 download of his VR reality goggles, or to be able to suck real-time live surveillance footage out of a traffic light or some other thing. They also told us about some of the use of this terahertz technology back a bunch of years ago, where they were using it in airports on lasers, and they can actually tell down at an atomic level, they're calling them molecular scanners, what you had for breakfast by one single atom on your lip. They can scan for all kinds of substances, whether it be biological, chemical, or if they wanted to use it for healthcare purposes, if they wanted to find out whether or not you had consumed any illicit substances. This is going to be a very useful tool. They've been using this in the past to do spectroscopy. We found out they were using it in Chile on their big radio telescope. They also have been using this technology when they're scanning other heavenly bodies to see whether or not they'd be worth mining. And they can get a full map of all of the minerals and elements that are available on that heavenly body. We've also talked about DARPA. And don't forget, DARPA is a part of all of this. DARPA has been sprinkling funding into a lot of this. Now we have all the tech billionaires and the tech companies stepping right up and becoming a part of the gaggle. But DARPA has their shape-shifting technologies that I think at some point today, I don't know, I found a whole bunch of stories last night that kind of went really well with this. So I don't know if we're going to make it to DARPA shape-shifting this week. We might have to save that one for Monday. There's always just too much to talk about, not enough time, not enough brain power. Sorry, guys. I wish I had more, but I just don't. Maybe if I was just doing my show. Yeah, I thought about this. Like, we wondered in the past, friends of ours who had run other radio networks very similar to this, who finally decided to, like, pack up the boat and just go do their own thing and give up the whole network thing. I kind of get it now. You know, when you're running a network, you're responsible for every show that's airing. And if it's live, you better be there producing, make sure they don't have any issues. And if it's not live and it's pre-recorded, well, you're probably going to be the one who's going to have to cut it. Not always, but most of the time, or at least double check it and make sure it's good. And then if something breaks, you're the one who's got to fix it. So it just is very overly consuming of every minute of my time, besides 5 days a week doing the show and my notes and the editing and just, you know, life in general. But anyway, enough of that. At least we get 5 hours a week, so that's enough lecture time. I'm sure I make your head hurt. in that short amount of time. So this DARPA shape-shifting, they've had this whole project going on for quite a number of years now, but they're not just looking at shape-shifting immune systems, and they're just not looking at shape-shifting cyber defense to protect the Internet of Things, and they're not looking at biologically alive houses that can self-repair themselves. No. We touched on that story last Friday, I think, but we're going to do a full-blown into these technologies next week. But DARPA has been working on this full out and out shape-shifting technology, not only on a biological level, which is beyond frightening in and of itself, but also on a technological level when it comes to warfare and war parts. They have shape-shifting tanks and planes. And I saw, as of, I think it was 2009, they actually had a full-blown out-and-out shape-shifting matter program. Yes, matter. Matter schmatter. Let's make it, a car isn't a car could be a shoe. I mean, hey, so much for saving resources. I mean, we really are talking about George Jetson on steroids, going into the, what did they call it? The gray goo. Talking about nanomaterials and things of that nature and on-demand everything. It's beyond frightening. So anyway, I want to continue a little bit more from yesterday. We've been talking about Terahertz radiation and some of the things that it could do, the deployment of Terahertz millimeter wave, not only in space with these CubeSats and as a booster to boost the 5G wavelengths for some of the Google Skybender Ubiquitous Sky Internet projects that are being launched out of the New Mexico desert in a spaceport. Then turning this around and having police agencies, remember, we got terrorists and mosquitoes under every bed. Next thing we'll know, they'll be fighting Zika with robots. But they've announced, now after the second or third time they've used a robot to defuse bombs or go in and kill his suspects who was holding hostages, that now robots are joining the police force. And one of the things that came out of that conversation that I had with myself yesterday is that it would not be too much of a stretch of the imagination that as we have these robots going in doing bomb diffusion, or they're actually, I think for the one, they actually armed it with a bomb and then sent it in after the guy and then blew it up near him and he got killed. Yeah, how sweet is that? I mean, and just remember, like I've said so many times, this is only the beginning. So they might look like little roly-poly robots with some tracks on them. And I've seen this one a few times. But I'm telling you, if you've watched this stuff from Boston Dynamics or watched any of the DARPA videos, watched some of their shape-shifting materials, like they have these rubberized ones that look like amoebas or something. And they can squish through little cracks under doors. They can change shape. They can climb walls. And these aren't messing around robots. They have ones that can literally jump like 30 feet in the air, and they look like they're pretty damn stationary until they go ting, and they end up on the roof of an apartment complex. So it isn't going to be too much of a stretch of the imagination for them to stick these terahertz scanners out of some of these robots to be able to scan inside of walls and determine whether or not there are any illicit substances inside or on your person. So I got one or two little clips here I just want to play that have been queued up since yesterday. It's Friday, guys. So by Friday, you got to give me a break. I'm going to turn up it echoes on this machine if I turn it up loud enough. All right, turn up the volume. So here's the first one. This is from a few days ago, the 21st, 2 days ago, how robots are joining the police force. PBS NewsHour for educational purposes only.
But first,
this is in light of the recent bombings in New York and New Jersey. Remember that? Yeah, that was last weekend. That was the whole weekend. Kind of ruined a few people's weekends trying to do news. Science correspondent Miles O'Brien takes a look at the new technology that is increasingly being used by law enforcement, and that is bomb disarming robots. Operated from a safe location, these robots can blast through car windows and even kill, which we've seen it 1 or 2 times already, raising ethical issues about how they should be used. Now, guys, we're worried about robots coming to take our jobs, and then we were worried about, Atlas robots. Whether or not they could be artificially intelligent to make that decision to kill. We had all kinds of scientists around the world meeting to discuss the ethical implications, and lo and behold, even though these don't look like big scary Atlas just yet, we have robots now that are working with the police force that are killing civilians. Now, all right, you could say he's holding hostages, you could say he's got a bomb, but guys, please correct me if I'm wrong. Is he or is he not still entitled to some sort of trial? Now, maybe not. Maybe if he has some impending, they consider him an impending danger. Maybe ethics or laws say that they could just pop him without a trial, but I don't know about that. I don't know where it all of a sudden came down to where the police became judge, jury, and executioner. You know, we're seeing stuff still going on in Charlotte. I saw they took over an overpass or something last night. The family got to see the video. I don't know. There's still questions as to whether or not it was a book or a gun. But you know what, guys? This just wanton killing. Let's look at Afghanistan and Pakistan with the whole drone program that's really kind of set the stage for all this. Good old Obama. Unmanned aerial vehicles. 230-point facial recognition. I mean, I know that they were sitting in the little drone rooms in the beginning, but at some point, they're going to be able to make these decisions, and they already can, but I don't know if they're doing that or not, without human intervention. They'll be able to determine if you are a danger, and if you're on that list, and if you have been slated to be exterminated. Kind of like a Dalek. Exterminate. Exterminate. All right, here, let's listen to this PBS clip. How robots are joining the police force.
In the aftermath of this week's bombings in New York and New Jersey, science correspondent Miles O'Brien looks at the ways police departments are coming to rely on bomb-disarming robots. It's part of our weekly Leading Edge series.
Everybody get off of this street!
As the pipe and pressure cooker bomb plot unfolded and unraveled in New York and New Jersey, police deployed some remotely operated tools aimed at saving the lives of civilians and bomb squad technicians alike. In New Jersey, a reminder of the hair-trigger risk they face in harm's way. At NYPD Bomb Squad headquarters on City Island a few years ago, Lieutenant Mark Torre gave me a demo using the same robot, the Remotech Andros F6A, built by Northrop Grumman.
Oh, there you go.
Mission is to put distance between our technicians and something of a hazardous nature, because distance in this business is always your friend.
In this scenario, it is believed there may be an explosive in this car. And it is much more than a hypothetical. It's what happened in Times Square on May 1st of 2010.
Ding.
A street vendor discovered a smoldering abandoned car filled with propane tanks, fertilizer, gasoline, and firecrackers.
I remember that.
It was a Saturday evening, the busiest time of the week in one of the busiest and most iconic intersections in the world.
Like
between the scenery, the symbolism, the congestion, and it being just media essential for New York City, you can't get much better of a background for a terrorist.
Mitch Silber was NYPD's Director of Intelligence Analysis at the time. He shudders to think what would have happened if the car bomb built by Pakistani-American Faisal Shahzad had not been a dud.
it would have ripped the car in half. And, this is a very busy intersection. Depending on the congestion of people right around the car, certainly killed people.
This guy's like going on and on. All I want to know about is the robots. All right, let's listen a little bit more. If he doesn't get to the point, we're going to chuck him.
Injured and maimed many others, and it would have been the first big terrorist attack in New York City since 9/11,
Ding.
since 2001, 9 years earlier.
So if he had just been a better bomb maker, it would have been a horrible event.
Absolutely.
If he'd just been a better bomb maker, it would have been a horrible event. Notice how everything goes back to 9/11, man. It's just unbelievable. Those millimeter scanners went back to 9/11. It's all about 9/11. We're going to look at, too, when I'm done with this, I have a story, a clip from the former, I don't know if he was a former mayor, the former police chief, talking about their new Terahertz scanners that they have in New York City. Yeah, apparently they're already in use.
In fact, a few months later, the FBI built an identical car bomb and detonated it to see what could have happened.
Oh! Well, that was a cool...
Scary thought. Instead, in Times Square,
it was in a field.
The NYPD bomb squad deployed its Andros robot and did pretty much what you are about to see.
Bomb squad is called, perimeter is set up, and we are now going to use this robot to approach this vehicle and take a look at what's inside.
Detective James Shutta operated the robot from a safe distance.
Here's something I want to point out. So they're just saying now that the very first time that they used these bomb diffusing robots was in 2010 in Times Square. And I very distinctly remember that, where the car was full of fertilizer and all kinds of crazy shit sitting right in the middle of the busiest section of New York. Of course, my sister lives there. I've been in New York many times over the years, so I pay a lot of attention when shit happens there. But one of our chatters, Joe, just pointed out in chat that this week, while these quote-unquote terror pressure cooker bombs and dumpster attack on New York and New Jersey was taking place, we just were getting set up for the final appearance of Obama on the international stage at the UN General Assembly meeting. And I was reading, they're talking about, I had a couple stories on this. Of course, one of them was all about antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Uh-oh. And another one was all about rolling out Agenda 2030. It's a very big push toward globalism going on right now. And, of course, by having these bomb-diffusing robots save the day while this is all getting ready to happen, it kind of focused the spotlight on New York. So they could just, again, roll this out into the common person's narrative to go, hey, look, robots saved us. They diffused bombs. And look at, they're working with the police department. It's such a wonderful thing. Guys, these are coming, and eventually we are going to have atlases. And if you've never seen an Atlas robot, search either Google or Boston Dynamics and Atlas in Google. I'm not sure who still owns them now. I know Google was looking at selling them off to some other entity. But they're very scary looking robots. And as we have these police brutality, quote unquote, issues going on, itchy trigger fingers, or what does Otto call it? Booger hook off the bank switch. They seem to have trouble with that. Well, hey, careful what you ask for, because the next thing you know, we are going to have a robotic police force that can be programmed to use non-lethal methods, such as what? Oh, all kinds of electromagnetic frequency weapons. It's at least my prediction, guys. All right, well, let's see. We'll listen to a little bit more of this, but I think I'm pretty bored of this.
We are not inside of the vehicle. The key to successful robot operation is that he can do the entire job without ever seeing what the robot is actually doing. It's all done remotely via the cameras.
But this robot is more than just a remote-controlled eye. It is able to get inside the car to take a closer look.
Oh, it blasted out the window.
12-gauge blast through both windows.
So, hold on. So this robot, first of all, they just showed us the robot can be equipped with a 12-gauge. Now, this is just like in North Dakota. I did a story last year on Anti-Media about North Dakota being the first state in the nation to authorize through laws, and it wasn't meant to be this way. The bill was actually to put to keep lethal or all weapons off of drones. But the way the bill was written, North Dakota actually allows non-lethal weapons right now on drones. And, any of these technologies we've been talking about are considered non-lethal. I was reading about the one where they can utilize these terahertz for these, I don't know if they're calling them heat weapons, heat guns. And it's almost at the microwave range, right? We discovered in looking at the electromagnetic frequency that we have optical, then we have the terahertz millimeter wave, and then right above or below that we have microwaves. Well, just like your microwave oven. Well, they have these beams where they can centralize the beams into a very concentrated point, just like a laser, and it becomes a heat weapon. And they can shoot it at crowds. They want to use it for crowd disbursement. They also have the sound weapons where they can buzz things into your ears and make you hear things. We were reading about that the other day as well. Hey, guys, technology has outpaced us for sure. It has all come from a military perspective. It is now trickling down, probably through that 1033 program, which I thought they discontinued from the military overstock to the police force, but I almost remember them saying no, they now changed that and they're going to let them buy things off of that contract again. But stuff is going direct from our military to our police force and to our streets in everyday suburban America. My mother, I had to laugh at her. I think I told the story once before. They went to one of their little local fairs or whatever this summer. They have a bunch of them. There's festivals around. And she saw a booth with our local police force in the booth. And it was with little local yokel events. There were probably 2 cops in there. But they had a big freaking MRAP parked out back. And she actually went and said something to them about how absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I grew up in a little sleepy town. There is just nothing there. I mean, a little bit. There's civilization now. But back 40 years ago, there was nothing. We didn't even have street lights, guys. We didn't have cable until I was 18 years old. And we got an MRAP in town. Now, you don't ever even see shootings. There's nothing. Hey, maybe someone got drunk. That's about as much. Someone went off the cliff into the lake. That's about, domestic disputes. That's about all you ever see. And we got an MRAP. How ridiculous is that? And that is happening cookie cutter across the United States. Well, now put on a seatbelt because now we're going to get robots on the police force.
We call it perfect shot. It's sort of just a game of manipulation now where he's going to maneuver the robot until we get a better view of what's inside. He took out both windows. Now we have an opportunity to look in both sides.
And a 12-gauge shotgun.
In this scenario, the robot discovered there is indeed a bomb inside the car.
Oh, my God. He blew out the windows and he sees the bomb.
The mind of the bomber.
So now what? Come on.
The bomb itself really has sort of remained the same throughout the years. It's what sets them off that sets them apart. The more sophisticated triggering systems are difficult to defeat, and that's a concern to us. But again,
I hate to tell you, but I know that there are people out there who do diffusion for a living. I have a friend who did that in the military and still may do it maybe somewhere as a contractor now. There's going to be a lot of people out of jobs if these robots get really good at this.
We always try to stay one step ahead.
Remote tech robots are also used by the military to defuse bombs.
Yes, military.
But also to kill insurgents hiding in alleys.
Oh, so wait, this is the same robot that they used in New York City that they use in places such as Afghanistan to kill insurgents hiding in alleys, a.k.a. urban warfare.
In Dallas in July, that same tactic was used by police.
Oh, yes, it was Dallas in the club.
A robot blew up a cornered sniper who had taken aim at white police officers, killing 5 of them. It was unprecedented in U.S. law enforcement history.
Ding.
But Dallas Police Chief David Brown said he has no regrets.
I'd do it again, Keith. I'd do it again to save our officers' lives.
But experts who track the evolution of technology used by the military and law enforcement worry an important threshold has been crossed without a national debate on the ethical issues.
There we go.
The question is it going to be viewed as an anomaly, or is it a precedent that will be followed more widely?
Yes, I am going to tell you 100% there is no ethical debate, and there isn't going to be an ethical debate. This is going to be a precedent that is now set and will be followed. And I see here this next clip is a C-SPAN clip. It looks like they're having some sort of congressional hearing. And guess who's sitting right at the end of the table? Oh, our good old friend Keith Alexander. At least that's who it looks like.
Peter W. Singer is an expert on unmanned and robotic weapons systems. He says it is inevitable local police will increase their use of robots.
The question is not, are police going to be using robotic systems? It's how, in what manner. How will they be trained to use them? How will they be regulated? Will they be armed or not? If they're armed, will they be lethally armed or with non-lethal weapons? The issue has to involve not just the police, but also the populace, the people that are to be protected and served by the police and the tools, including the robotic ones that they use.
The devices used in New York, New Jersey, and Dallas all still have human beings in the loop, driving the robot, making the decisions.
Right now.
But as robots become more autonomous,
there's Atlas.
Rules of engagement will become
and Big Dog.
Concern for law enforcement and the public. Miles O'Brien, the PBS NewsHour, New York.
And see, that's the thing. Atlas and Big Dog marching down the street, coming to your home, equipped with laser weapons in their eyeballs, knocking at your door. When you don't answer, they just break it on down and come on in. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because there's nothing you're going to be able to do. And guys, don't let this get out of hand. Because we already have this Google self-driving car, and you're like, what do self-driving cars have to do with bomb-diffusing robots? Well, they're all utilizing robotic technology that can be retrofitted or front-fitted with artificial intelligence and made autonomous. Google self-driving cars now to automatically pull over for police. If you remember my kid, I told this story before in school. They had asked them at the end of a test. We had a test online. They filled out all these questions. And at the very end of the test, there was a little box that wanted some input or feedback from, I don't know, they were probably in third grade maybe, whether or not they'd get into a self-driving car. And how nice that Google is using our classrooms to be able to garner the opinions of 8-year-olds to see what they have to deal with for resistant consumers in the future. And they asked whether or not you would get into a self-driving car. My smart little cookie, who apparently pays a lot more attention to mom than I thought, says in the box, no, because they could drive you to the police station, which I've said a million times before. And she was paying a lot of attention, but check this out, because I was not too far off. September 22nd, 2016, out of RT.
On September 1st, Google filed for a patent for technology that would make their self-driving cars pull over automatically for police.
Ding.
You're in your self-driving car, looking at Facebook or something, and a cop wants to pull you over, your car will do it automatically, whether you want to or not.
Oh, my God.
Technology involves sensors inside the car that would recognize the flashing red and blue lights of a police vehicle. Google is supposedly teaching the sensors to tell the difference between cop lights, traffic lights, and sunlight. When the sensors see cop lights, the car will pull over to the side of the road. Then the police car can either pass you on its way to an emergency, or it can pull over with you for whatever reason.
And then whoops, accidentally shoot you because it thinks your computer you're looking at Facebook on is a gun.
The idea is that when people are driving and see flashing lights, they get freaked out. Sometimes in their panic to get out of the way, they end up hitting other cars. So Google thinks this new technology will reduce accidents that occur when people freak out at seeing cop lights. Also, sometimes when people see the flashing lights of cops, they just want to get the hell out of there. They don't want to pull over for the police for whatever reason.
Right.
This new technology would put an end to that.
Oh, my God.
Bad if you don't want to stop for the cops. Your car is the boss, and it does want to pull over.
Yeah, not only is your car the boss to pull you over, but remember that whole ethical dilemma that I'm pretty sure is settled now, where they've decided that if you are going to careen out of control and have an accident, and you could either turn right and end up in the crowd of people or turn left and end up in the brick wall face first, the car is going to decide for you and not give you any type of capability of self-preservation. The car is going to decide that killing you, that one individual, is way better than potentially killing the 20 people on the sidewalk. And so it's going to decide for you to slam you face first into the brick wall.
And too bad if you don't want a car that drives itself at all, because Google seems hell-bent on selling them to us. They keep expanding their testing program, so the cars are now on the road in Arizona, Washington, Texas, and California.
Oh my God.
They've logged millions of miles in driving tests. Last month, they were involved in 3 crashes in Arizona. Google makes sure any crash reports say that humans caused the crashes, not their cars, even though some might debate that. Either way, the crashes aren't slowing down Google's push to have us all in their self-driving cars soon. And then once we're in them, we're no longer in control, as this new patent points out.
And that's the one thing I've been saying since day one about self-driving cars. I mean, who wouldn't love to be able to just take a nap and be 8 hours down the road to Aunt Susie's at Christmas time and not have to worry about driving through snowstorms or whiteouts or whatever, because we'll all have LiDAR and our little swarm technology going on and being able to have the GPS beam down from the sky. But on the other hand, you know, they're looking at talking about in some of these vehicles, I think it might have been the Microsoft or I don't remember, one of the manufacturers, maybe it was Ford. They're getting rid of the steering wheel and the gas and brake pedal. It's going to be fully autonomous. You're not going to have any control over it whatsoever. These cars will be able to decide on their own what they're going to do with you. And you've lost one of those very last bastions of freedom, one of my favorite bastions of freedom. It's getting in my car and driving. You will not have that capability anymore, and it's all going to be done in the name of climate change, Agenda 21. Let's share resources. These self-driving cars, I told you, they're going to finance them. I could see some self-driving taxis with maybe LCD advertising all over the wall, so it might not even cost you anything to encourage people to get into them. Just push that big red button or the big green button on your smart app on your phone. Boop, car. It says it in big blocky letters. In 5 minutes or less, the car will be there to pick you up.
The car will pull over for the police, regardless of whether or not you want to. Who knows what else Google has planned in terms of having your car communicate with the police? This could be a stepping stone to your car telling the police all about you, remotely, whether you even know what's happening or not.
Ding.
Who knows? All I know is when the robot car goes in cahoots with the cops, it's a scary-looking future.
Yeah, it is.
Tonight, let's talk about that.
I mean, it's beyond a scary-looking future. And when you get into that self-driving car, you know, there are technologies out there right now with cell phones like Bluetooth where your device can pair up with other devices and there could be data transfer going on. They have already documented that there are these private planes that were all FAA licensed to the FBI that can fly over a location and suck your data literally out of your cell phone. They could do like a dragnet over a whole area as they're flying these little private planes over. Hey, who's going to say that this technology, that even a Bluetooth to be able to suck the stuff out of your phone isn't going to be available in this car? So the second you get in, they can suck all your stuff out of your phone along with maybe a Terahertz laser scanner, scan your lips, scan your skin. They could probably get a remote DNA sample. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that one bit. And be able to tell a lot about you from that information. And, of course, all you're thinking about is that you're going to the grocery store. You're getting into your self-driving car, and you're going to go get some French fries, for dinner or whatever. It's just insane. I got a lot of clips, too, I've been queuing up, but I don't really want to sit here and clip it all up. All right, well, let's continue a little bit more. So we have these robots now that are non-lethal, but they can shoot 12-gauge shotguns, so I guess they could be lethal, and they have killed people, and they can defuse bombs. We also have Google's self-driving car, which is going to be able to pull over directly for the police and potentially communicate with the police. We have New York City, New Jersey bombings that, of course, was the latest lesson right as the UN was coming to New York for their current General Assembly meeting, put it all into the spotlight, how great it was to use these robots to help save us all. There also was a story that came out of the IEEE spectrum just a few days ago, lessons from the New York bombing, and there was one paragraph in this that really kind of caught me by the nose, and I had to post it. Not even one person read this, which pisses me off because I don't post shit just for my well-being. It's not like I have all this spare time to go posting stuff. If I post something, it means I found something really important in there that continues this proof that we've been finding along the way that everything that I'm saying here and this lunacy to the future is actually happening. But listen to this. Lessons from the New York bombing. And on the front of the picture here, they have this blown-up dumpster. And, of course, there's people in suits standing around. They look like they're probably from the Joint Terrorism Task Force and maybe even the mayor or the police chief standing out in front looking at it with their hands in their pockets. And it says, Shoop, and this is this person they were interviewing, Shoop suggests that such a system someday in New York may help detect urban IEDs, and these are explosive devices. It could make use of surveillance cameras already installed in many cities, and we've established that. There's all kinds of different technologies where they've been doing this, as well as biosensors since 2001. And they could augment these surveillance cameras with other sensors. For example, one capable of what? Detecting chemical or gas signatures of explosives. Now, we read yesterday that's exactly what this millimeter wave terahertz technology can do from a distance. The Internet of Things modules is what they're calling them, would enable this to feed the data that they collect in the cities into databases scrutinized by sophisticated, artificially intelligent-based software. Ding, ding, ding. They are now calling it persistent surveillance. Persistent surveillance in an Internet of Things configuration is probably where this is all headed, unquote. Now, guys, it's exactly what I've been saying, and they now have drones that can surveil an entire city 24/7 at all times in super duper HD. Remember that Argus drone from DARPA? And now let's add to that some of these new technologies with Terahertz. And you can't run and you can't hide. This can go through bricks. And I mean, it is kind of short distance, but don't worry about it because they are working on longer distances. There was another Wikipedia I ran across. I was doing all kinds of digging into things that they could do with millimeter wave over the last few days. There was something out of Wikipedia called the active denial system. This is the active denial system using millimeter waves. The active denial system is a non-lethal, directed energy weapon developed by the U.S. military, designed for denial, perimeter security, and crowd control. And this is this heat ray. Informally, the weapon is also called the heat ray, since it works by heating surface targets such as the skin of human subjects. And at one point, we had read something about how, in the future, this millimeter wave technology, since it doesn't penetrate too deep down inside of the skin, might be used to treat skin cancers. Yeah, well, it might be able to be used to treat skin cancers because it's shooting it into a localized area and heating up the atoms in your body. Now, we had watched a video clip back at the beginning of this week or the end of last week about them using frequencies on brain tumors And they could have these little nano ferrous oxide materials that they've been finding in brains inside of these tumors, heat them up, and cause the cells to explode. We also found a story out of MIT Technology Review from 2009 that had discussed how terahertz can actually unzip DNA. So the fact that they are utilizing these same technologies for airport scanners to determine what you had for breakfast as a molecular scanner on your lip with a laser, to be able to scan different suspects to determine whether or not they have a gun, or decide whether or not, if we blanket an area with these types of technologies, whether or not there is any potential threat in your viewable space. You know, we listened to a TEDx Monday from Jeremy. I keep forgetting Jeremy's name, but Jeremy was that civil engineer in Silicon Valley who ended up with that electromagnetic frequency. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm starting to wind down now. He has sensitivity to electromagnetic frequencies. And he had been talking about the little mini cell stations that are now all over the cities. Well, I found a diagram that actually showed how to build out cellular networks. And what was beyond interesting that I discovered, and I didn't know this is something that looks like it might be a little older technology, is what they've been doing is they used to have the cell tower, like the main cell tower in a city, and you'd have a couple of them. And you'd also have your wireless mesh network in a city for your metropolitan area network. But you would couple that with your fiber in the ground to do your E1T1 type connectivity and your heavy duty backhaul to the main central point of presence for the internet or service provider. A lot of times it was the telco companies, but a lot of times it was the big tier one internet service providers in the city. And that's typically where they always have their point of presence, because that's where you got the fiber in the ground. But one of the things that they've been doing for a long time, apparently, is utilizing this millimeter wave as an in-between, a go-between for backhauling in the cities between the hardwired network, the wireless network, and the cellular network. So they could place these millimeter wave scanners and connectivity at the traffic lights, at the street lights, and using them to bounce the signal. So apparently, what I didn't realize, but in digging through some of these older presentations, this has already been in the works for a long time. So millimeter wave sensors have already found their ways into our downtowns. Let's read a little bit more, though, about this active denial system utilizing this same millimeter wave bandwidth. The active denial system is a non-lethal directed energy weapon developed by the U.S. military, designed for area denial, perimeter security, and crowd control. And as we're seeing things start to unravel in the big cities, like is what is going on, Charlotte, North Carolina, Oklahoma, New York City, anytime, we have an emergency, wouldn't crowd control using some sort of directed energy weapon be a wonderful thing, especially if it made people get hot and run? Informally, the weapon is called the heat ray, and it works by heating the surface of targets such as skin of targeted human subjects. Raytheon is the manufacturer, and they are marketing a reduced range version of this technology. This active denial system was deployed in 2010 with the United States military in Afghanistan, ding ding, but was withdrawn without seeing combat. So Raytheon didn't get to show how well it would work, but don't worry, because August 20th, 2010, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department announced its intent to use this technology on prisoners. Oh, yes, prisoners in prisons, many of whom are in there for victimless crimes, such as having a joint. They are using on prisoners in the Pitchness Detention Center in Los Angeles, stating that its intent was to use it in quote-unquote operational evaluation in situations such as breaking up prisoner fights. The ADS is currently only mounted on a vehicle right now, though U.S. Marines and police are both working on portable versions. And we read yesterday about that Department of Energy, Argonne, I think the name of the company was. They now do have a portable version of the millimeter ray. I don't know if it was a heat weapon in particular. It might have just been a scanner, but hey, how much more difficult would that be? This active denial system is currently only vehicle mounted, like I said, but they're working on portable versions, and it was developed under the sponsorship of the DOD Non-Lethal Weapons Program with the Air Force Research Laboratory, that same group that's going to be releasing all those CubeSats and plasma bombing the sky. Yes. And I read a little bit more about that, by the way. It is absolutely to increase these bandwidths so they can get longer than 50 meters reception on this stuff, by the way. So it was a program with the Air Force Research Laboratory as the lead agency, and there are reports as well that, of course, Russia and China are developing their own active denial system. And, of course, they are. Remember, all this technology has put us into a race war of mad science gone mad. And we're not just talking about robots and terahertz and laser beams from the sky. We're talking about biological, as well as splicing and dicing, zipping and unzipping DNA technologies, CRISPRing the planet in our own image. Guys, this is not a good thing. These have all become weapons of mass destruction. And remember, terahertz has shown it can unzip DNA. So now here we go. Here's a clip now that I couldn't even believe, but I guess this is already in place in New York City. Ray Kelly, who was the former police chief in New York City, if I remember correctly now, and he was the one that got busted for the unconstitutional stop and frisk, where they were stopping suspicious-looking characters and frisking them on the street. That was ruled by a court as unconstitutional, but don't worry about it, because in 2013, Ray Kelly comes out and has a conversation with somebody in an interview and tells you how they're going to get around the stop and frisk controversy. This is City Labs Urban Solutions to Global Challenges.
That if instead of having stop and frisk, there were just a more automatic way. If you could detect people with guns, that would be less sort of invasive to personal autonomy. Do you have that technology coming along?
Funny you should ask, though.
You should ask that.
And we've been looking at it for several years, but working with the Metropolitan Police and DARPA, the federal government.
Wait a minute. Did Ray Kelly, the New York City police chief, just say he was working with DARPA? He did. Oh, my God, he did.
Component. It's called Terahertz technology. And what it does, in essence, everybody emits terahertz radiation. And what it does do is enable you to see someone, say, carrying a weapon. The problem is, so far, the device that's been developed is too big, and it doesn't have the range. But we know what cell phones were like in 1986. Look what they're like now. So we believe that the technology will only get better, and that would be a major breakthrough as far as finding weapons on the street.
Yeah, right now it's too big. But like cell phones, they were big and clunky, and look at how they are right now.
Can you imagine 10 years from now?
No.
Technology being deployed around the city. So just like you have cameras recording where people go, you could notice that somebody with a gun is moving in a certain neighborhood?
Not without a major fight. I think the legal, we're talking, our lawyers are looking at it, the issues of, obviously Fourth Amendment issues are involved there. But, this is something you do in increments. And I don't know if 10 years from now you'd see them, positioned all over. We have to.
Notice he says this is something you do in increments. And of course, it's all about rolling it out slowly so you don't get the pushback from the population. And it's got to be shown to be keeping you safe. What's in it for me? You're not going to tell them about how it's going to take their liberties away. You're not going to tell them about how it potentially could be used as a heat ray. You're not going to tell them about how there's evidence that it could unzip DNA. No, it's all about catching the bad guy and keeping you safe and having examples, high profile examples where they can utilize this technology and then point to it and say, look, this is a good thing. Look, we're going to increase this. Look, it's going to keep you safe from the sky. Guys, that's how they do it. And it is going to roll out gradually. And like you said, imagine 10 years from now. I can't imagine 10 years from now because it is beyond frightening. So here's another story we ran across yesterday afternoon after the show from 2015. We were chatting and chat after the show talking about terahertz and mail. And one of the stories we did at the very end of the show talked about the Metropolitan Museum of Art using these new scanners to be able to read through up to 9 pages of a book without ever opening it. And of course, it's going to be great for curators who have very rare books who they don't even want to open, but they want to get inside and read them. And we were like, well, if they could do that, then why couldn't they do that with the mail? And as I started thinking about it, I'm like, wait a second, after 2001, we had those anthrax scares, and there was a anthrax scare where they were sending anthrax through the mail. And remember that they had this new scanning system that they were going to be scanning all your mail to make sure it didn't have any pathogens on it. And I was like, oh, let's take a look at what they're doing there. Well, I don't know if that was exactly what they rolled out at that time, but as of June 9, 2015, there was a story that came out, a high-tech way to detect a mail bomb. If you're Ted Kaczynski, who actually warned about all this technology long, long ago. The U.S. Postal Service delivers more than 160 billion pieces of mail a year. So how can we tell if one of these pieces is a bomb in disguise? Well, don't worry about it, because there is a new piece of technology that uses a harmless, notice how they say harmless, 2009 MIT Technology Review did not suggest that it was harmless, low-frequency terahertz wave to scan for dangerous threats hidden in the mail. And without having to open suspicious packages or envelopes, the T-cognition system, that's what they're calling it, T-cognition, like to be able to see things without seeing them with terahertz, can detect hidden criminal drugs, hazardous materials, and explosives disguised as mail. A German team made up of researchers from the Fraunhofer Institute for Physical Measurement Technique, IPM, and the Hubner, with a little double dot over the U, developed the technology. The T-cognition system is based on a terahertz scanner and could help reduce the risk to postal workers and intended targets of the center. And they did pull it all out here. They said soon after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, letters were loaded with the biological weapon anthrax, and they began surfacing in the U.S. mail, and ultimately 5 Americans were killed and 17 became ill. Last year, several letter bombs were sent to armed forces recruitment offices in the United Kingdom, and letter bombs still occur in the United States. And it is not just high-profile people who are targets. And without the aid of technology, postal workers sometimes also can recognize the hallmarks of a threat and act to prevent a tragedy. So what is this technology? Well, is it an innocent birthday present or a bomb? Is it an innocuous letter or an explosive threat? The tech leverages terahertz to distinguish threats lurking in the mail. It is a range that lies midway between microwave and infrared in the electromagnetic spectrum, and thus combines the advantages of both. Similar to microwaves, these terahertz waves are low energy frequencies and one that can penetrate a wide range of material from paper to fabric fabrics through to plastics and more. Still in the early days for this technology, and researchers continue to explore and develop applications for it. How does it work? Well, it's got a retractable tray, and the envelope can be placed on it, and the current system works on the postal package's size of a standard piece of printed paper, and it can go in a thickness of about 2 centimeters. The waves will reveal the threat, and depending on the material in the package, it can tell you what it is, because the waves are absorbed at different frequencies within a special range, and it could be deployed for all sorts of mailrooms, ranging from companies and schools to prisons, government agencies, and embassies. Guys, this technology is coming to either the sky or a mailroom or a lamppost or a cell phone, an internet router, a sky bender drone, or a traffic light, or an airport scanner near you. It's pretty unbelievable what a little Swiss Army knife these terahertz waves are. But don't worry about it, because MIT Technology Review says how terahertz waves rip apart DNA. And I'll put it in the notes today, but there's actually an abstract as well as a full-blown paper that digs way deep into how this unzipping of the DNA works and why they are so concerned. And like I said, it was published October 28th of 2009. It was a scientist out of Los Alamos National Laboratory and looks like a doctor out of the Harvard Medical School in Boston, Mass. And guys, nobody is raising the red alarm on this at all. So it's got to be very concerning, since this technology will be absolutely 100% ubiquitous. All right, guys, make sure you stick around. If you can even believe it, that is Friday pretty much in the bag. And it is Friday, so be excited, because Ms. Lonnie Clark is live up next. All kinds of great radio tonight. Levon should be live at 11. And I got all the shows ready to roll. Brand new stuff for the entire weekend. All right, guys, have an awesome Friday, and I will catch up with you on Monday. Everybody take care.